The echoes of Earth. 50,000 years had passed since Earth's final day, a day when humanity's home was obliterated by the Galactic Council's deadly weapon. The universe had long since moved on, believing humanity to be extinct, another race lost to the annals of history. But in the cold and distant reaches of space, hidden from prying eyes, humanity endured. The dark void of space was now a haven for what remained of the human race. Scattered across uncharted territories, they had survived, evolved, and adapted, fueled by a burning desire for revenge. The destruction of Earth had been a deliberate act of annihilation, sparked by jealousy and fear. Humanity had been accused of uplifting the Zorgon, a lesser species, leading to the Council's brutal retaliation. The evidence had been fabricated, but the cost was real. Billions of lives snuffed out in an instant. Captain Adrian Cross stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, the flagship of humanity's hidden fleet. His gaze was fixed on the distant stars, his mind replaying the countless stories of Earth that had been passed down through generations. The oceans, the forests, the blue skies, all gone, reduced to cosmic dust. But humanity's spirit, the essence of what made them unique, remained unbroken. "Sir," came the voice of Commander Elise Navarro, his trusted second-in-command. "The fleet is in position. We await your orders." Cross turned to face her, his face set in grim determination. "We've waited long enough, Commander. It's time we remind the galaxy who we are." Navarro nodded, her expression mirroring his resolve. "The Council won't see this coming. They still believe we're nothing more than a memory." "They're wrong," Cross replied, his voice cold and steady. "We're going to show them that humanity is not just alive, but stronger than ever. We'll strike where it hurts the most." The Vengeance hummed with the quiet power of its advanced technology, a stark contrast to the sleek, lethal designs of the Galactic Council's ships. Over centuries, humanity had developed weapons and defenses far beyond the Council's understanding. Cloaking devices that rendered them invisible to sensors, phase shift drives that allowed them to slip through space undetected, and quantum torpedoes capable of ripping through the most advanced shields. "The target?" Navarro asked, though she already knew the answer. "Primus," Cross confirmed. "The Council's heart. We hit them there, and they'll be scrambling to recover." A holographic map materialized in front of them, displaying the vast expanse of Council-controlled space. At its center was Primus, the shining jewel of the Galactic Council, a planet of immense wealth and power, guarded by the most formidable fleet in the galaxy. "We've only got one shot at this," Cross continued. "We jump in, hit them with everything we've got, and get out before they can mount a defense. It's a high-risk operation, but it's the only way to make them pay for what they did to Earth." Navarro studied the map, her brow furrowing. "Their defenses are formidable, but we've faced worse odds before." Cross allowed himself a rare smile. "Indeed we have, and we've always come out on top. This time will be no different." He turned to the assembled officers on the bridge, each one a veteran of countless battles, each one carrying the weight of humanity's lost home. "Prepare the fleet for a full-scale assault. I want all systems at peak efficiency. We leave nothing to chance." The officers snapped to attention, their expressions hardening with purpose. They had been waiting for this day their entire lives, training and preparing in secret, always with the knowledge that they would one day avenge Earth. As they dispersed to carry out their orders, Navarro lingered, her eyes on Cross. "Do you think we'll ever find peace, Adrian? After all this?" Cross sighed, the weight of his responsibilities pressing down on him. "Peace is a luxury we can't afford right now. Not until justice is served. Not until every last one of those who conspired against us pays the price." Navarro nodded, though her eyes reflected a sadness that words could not capture. "Then we'll fight until the end. For Earth." "For Earth," Cross echoed, his voice filled with steely resolve. The Vengeance and its fleet began to move, slipping into the void, their cloaking devices rendering them invisible to the galaxy. The time for hiding was over. Humanity had risen from the ashes, and they were coming to reclaim what was theirs. As the stars blurred around them, Cross stared out into the vastness of space, feeling the presence of the billions of souls lost on Earth guiding him. This was not just about revenge. It was about survival, about ensuring that the universe never forgot the name of humanity. They would make their presence known, and the galaxy would tremble at their return. The trapped Titans. The journey to Primus was swift, the vengeance cutting through space like a ghost. As they neared the system, the fleet emerged from the void, their advanced cloaking devices still keeping them hidden from any prying eyes. The element of surprise was their greatest weapon, and they intended to use it to full effect. Entering Primus's outer orbit, reported Lieutenant Zara Wells, the ship's navigation officer. No sign of detection. Cross leaned forward in his chair, his eyes narrowing as the image of Primus filled the view screen. The planet was beautiful in a way that belied its role as the seat of the Galactic Council's power. Its cities were a marvel of architecture, its landscapes a testament to the wealth and resources that the Council had amassed over millennia. All ships, prepare for phase shift, Cross ordered. We'll strike as soon as we're in position. The fleet began to spread out, each ship taking up strategic positions around the planet. The plan was simple: a coordinated assault that would cripple the Council's defenses in one swift blow. There would be no time for the enemy to react, no chance for them to mount a counterattack. Phase shift drive is ready, Wells confirmed. Execute, Cross commanded. In an instant, the fleet vanished from their positions, reappearing moments later directly above the planet's major cities and military installations. The phase shift technology allowed them to bypass any traditional defenses, materializing within the heart of the enemy's stronghold. Fire at will, Cross ordered, his voice as cold as the void. The sky above Primus erupted in fire as the fleet unleashed its full arsenal. Quantum torpedoes streaked towards the surface, striking with pinpoint accuracy. Explosions rocked the cities below, sending plumes of smoke and debris into the air. The Council's defenses were caught off guard, their response slow and disorganized. But as the first wave of destruction rained down, something unexpected happened. The sensors on the Vengeance blared with warnings, detecting a massive energy surge coming from the planet's surface. "Sir, we're picking up a massive power spike from the surface," Wells reported, her voice tinged with alarm. It's a shield. They're deploying a planetary shield." Cross's eyes widened in shock. "That's impossible. No shield can cover an entire planet, not without." His words were cut off as the shield activated, a shimmering barrier of energy enveloping the planet. The quantum torpedoes that had been raining down were suddenly deflected, their explosive power dissipating harmlessly against the shield's surface. "They were ready for us," Navarro said, her voice tight with frustration. "They knew we were coming." Cross's mind raced as he tried to comprehend what had just happened. The Council had somehow anticipated their attack, and they had prepared for it. The shield was unlike anything he had ever seen, a technological marvel that should not have been possible. "We need to regroup," Cross said, his voice calm despite the growing panic in his chest. "Order the fleet to fall back to a safe distance. We'll reassess and—" Before he could finish, the ship's sensors blared again, this time detecting a massive fleet emerging from the far side of the planet. The Council's warships, sleek and deadly, were already moving into attack formation. "Sir, we've got company," Wells said, her voice trembling. Dozens of Council warships, closing fast. Cross's heart sank as he realized the full extent of their predicament. They had been lured into a trap, and now they were surrounded, outnumbered and outgunned. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Cross ordered, his voice steely. "All ships, engage the enemy. We're not going down without a fight." The Vengeance and the rest of the fleet sprang into action, their weapons blazing as they met the Council's forces head-on. The space around Primus was soon filled with the fury of battle, ships weaving and dodging, lasers and torpedoes crisscrossing the void. But the odds were against them. The Council's ships were more numerous, and their tactics were precise. One by one, the ships of the human fleet were picked off, their defenses overwhelmed by the relentless assault. On the bridge of the Vengeance, Cross watched helplessly as his fleet was decimated. He had underestimated the Council, and now his people were paying the price. "Captain, we've lost the courage and the defiance," Navarro reported, her voice filled with despair. "Our shields are failing, and we're running low on torpedoes." Cross clenched his fists, his mind racing for a solution. But there was none. They were trapped, outnumbered, and on the verge of annihilation. "Prepare for phase shift," Cross ordered, his voice hollow. "We need to retreat." But as Wells began to input the coordinates, the ship's systems suddenly went dark. The lights flickered, the engines sputtered, and the hum of the phase shift drive faded into silence. "Phase shift drive is offline," Wells said, her voice filled with disbelief. "We're dead in the water." Cross stared at the viewscreen, watching as the Council's ships closed in for the kill. He had led his people into a trap, and now there was no way out. As the first of the Council's ships fired, sending a volley of torpedoes streaking towards the Vengeance, Cross closed his eyes. He had failed his people, failed the memory of Earth. But just as the torpedoes were about to strike, a blinding light filled the viewscreen, and the ship was rocked by a massive shockwave. "What the—" Cross began, but his words were drowned out by the sound of alarms blaring throughout the ship. Navarro's eyes widened in shock as she looked at the sensor readings. "Sir, we're being pulled into a spatial anomaly." Cross opened his eyes just in time to see the viewscreen warp and twist as the Vengeance was sucked into a swirling vortex of energy. The ship shook violently, the hull creaking under the strain. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the shaking stopped. The ship was no longer in the Primus system. They were somewhere else, somewhere unknown. The bridge was silent, the crew stunned and disoriented. Cross looked around, trying to make sense of what had just happened. "Where are we?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Wells frantically worked at her console, trying to get the ship's systems back online. I don't know, sir. We're in uncharted space. There's nothing on the sensors, no stars, no planets, nothing." Navarro looked at Cross, her expression a mixture of fear and confusion. "What just happened? What was that?" Cross shook his head, his mind reeling. "I don't know. But whatever it was, it saved us. We need to figure out where we are, and how to get back." But as he stared out into the void, a sinking feeling settled in his gut. They were lost, stranded in a part of the universe they didn't understand, with no way of knowing how to return. And somewhere, out there in the darkness, the Council was waiting. The awakening. The crew of the Vengeance had spent days trying to make sense of their new surroundings, but the more they searched, the more hopeless their situation seemed. The sensors detected nothing. No stars, no planets, no signs of life. It was as if they had been thrown into a pocket of space that defied all known laws of physics. "Captain, we're picking up a faint signal," Wells reported, breaking the silence that had settled over the bridge. "It's weak, but it's definitely artificial." Cross's eyes snapped to the viewscreen. "Where's it coming from?" Wells adjusted the controls, trying to pinpoint the source. "It's coming from directly ahead. It's almost like it's guiding us." "Guiding us where?" Navarro asked, her brow furrowing. Cross didn't hesitate. "Set a course for the signal. It's the only lead we've got." The ship moved forward, following the faint signal through the empty void. The crew was on edge, their nerves frayed by the uncertainty of their situation. They had faced death in battle, but this was something else, something beyond their understanding. As they neared the source of the signal, a massive structure materialized out of the darkness, its size dwarfing even the largest of the Council's ships. It was ancient, its surface covered in strange, indecipherable symbols that seemed to shift and change as they looked at them. "What is that?" Navarro whispered, her voice filled with awe and fear. "I don't know," Cross replied, his eyes fixed on the structure. But I think we're about to find out. The ship was drawn closer, as if pulled by an invisible force. The structure's surface shimmered, and a docking bay opened up, inviting them inside. "Sir, I'm not sure this is a good idea." "Well said," her voice trembling. "We don't know what's in there." "We don't have a choice," Cross replied, his voice firm. "This might be our only way out." The Vengeance entered the docking bay, the ship coming to a gentle stop as the bay doors closed behind them. The crew remained on high alert, their weapons at the ready as they prepared for whatever awaited them. The view screen showed the interior of the structure, an expansive, dimly lit chamber filled with strange machinery and glowing symbols that pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light. "Keep the ship on standby," Cross ordered. "Navarro, you're with me. We're going to investigate." Navarro nodded, and the two of them made their way to the airlock, donning their suits before stepping out into the chamber. The air was thin but breathable, and the atmosphere was charged with an energy that made their skin tingle. As they moved deeper into the chamber, the symbols on the walls began to glow brighter, responding to their presence. It was as if the structure was alive, aware of their every move. "Captain, this place is giving me the creeps," Navarro said, her hand resting on her sidearm. "It feels wrong." Cross nodded in agreement. There was something unsettling about the structure, something ancient and powerful that defied explanation. They reached the center of the chamber, where a massive, circular platform awaited them. In the center of the platform was a pedestal, atop which rested a glowing orb, its surface swirling with colors and patterns that seemed to shift and dance. "What is that?" Navarro asked, her voice filled with wonder. "I'm not sure," Cross replied, stepping closer to the pedestal. "But I think it's what's been guiding us." As he reached out to touch the orb, a sudden surge of energy shot through him, flooding his mind with images and memories that were not his own. He saw worlds beyond imagination, civilizations that had risen and fallen long before humanity had even existed. He saw the birth of stars, the death of galaxies, and the endless expanse of the universe. And then he saw Earth, the blue planet shining like a jewel in the void, a beacon of hope and life. He saw its destruction, the Council's weapon tearing it apart, and the billions of lives that were lost in an instant. But there was something else, something hidden deep within the orb. A memory, a secret that had been buried for eons, waiting to be uncovered. Cross staggered back, his mind reeling from the experience. Navarro caught him, her eyes wide with concern. "Captain, what happened? What did you see?" Cross took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "I saw everything. The history of the universe, the rise and fall of civilizations, and I saw Earth, our Earth." "What does it mean?" Navarro asked, her voice filled with confusion. "I don't know," Cross replied, his voice trembling. "But there's something more, something buried deep within this place, a secret that could change everything." Before Navarro could respond, the chamber began to rumble, the symbols on the walls glowing brighter and brighter. The platform beneath them started to rise, lifting them up towards the ceiling. "What's happening?" Navarro shouted, her voice barely audible over the roar of the machinery. "I think we've activated something," Cross replied, his eyes wide with realization. "Something that was meant to be found." The platform reached the ceiling, and a hatch opened above them, revealing a blinding light that enveloped them both. The light was warm, comforting, and filled with a sense of purpose that was almost overwhelming. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the light faded, and they found themselves standing in a new chamber, one that was vastly different from the one they had just left. This chamber was filled with statues, each one depicting a figure of immense power and wisdom. The walls were adorned with murals that told the story of an ancient war, a war that had shaped the very fabric of the universe. At the far end of the chamber was a throne, and seated upon it was a figure clad in armor that shimmered with a light of its own. The figure's face was obscured by a helmet, but its presence was undeniable. It was the source of the power that had guided them here. "Welcome, travelers," the figure said, its voice echoing through the chamber. "You have come far and faced many trials to reach this place." Cross and Navarro exchanged a glance, their minds racing with questions. "Who are you?" Cross asked, his voice filled with awe. "What is this place?" The figure rose from the throne, its movements graceful and fluid. "I am the guardian of this place, the keeper of the knowledge that has been hidden for millennia. This is the sanctum, a repository of the universe's greatest secrets." Cross took a step forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "Why have you brought us here?" The guardian looked at him, its gaze piercing through him. "Because you are the last hope of your kind. The knowledge contained within this sanctum can give you the power to defeat your enemies, to reclaim what was taken from you. But it comes at a price." Cross felt a chill run down his spine. "What price?" The guardian gestured to the murals on the walls. "The knowledge within this sanctum was forged in the fires of war, a war that nearly destroyed the universe. To wield it is to take on a great responsibility, one that could lead to salvation or ruin. The choice is yours." Navarro looked at Cross, her eyes filled with uncertainty. "Captain, we need to think about this. We don't know what we're getting into." Cross nodded, his mind racing. This was it, their chance to change the course of history, to save what was left of humanity. But it was also a risk, one that could have catastrophic consequences. He looked up at the guardian, his decision made. "We'll take the knowledge. We'll take the risk." The guardian nodded, its expression unreadable. "So be it." With a wave of its hand, the chamber was filled with light, and the knowledge of the sanctum flooded into their minds, filling them with understanding and power beyond anything they had ever imagined. And as the light faded, Cross knew that their journey was far from over. The battle for humanity's survival had only just begun, and the true test was yet to come. The reckoning. The light from the sanctum dimmed, leaving Captain Cross and Navarro standing in the now quiet chamber. The weight of the knowledge they had just absorbed was almost too much to bear. It was as if the entire universe had been compressed into their minds, filling them with both awe and dread. Cross could feel the power thrumming within him, a force that was both exhilarating and terrifying. He looked at Navarro, who was still trying to process what they had just experienced. Her eyes were wide, her face pale. "Captain," she whispered, her voice trembling. What do we do now?" Cross took a deep breath, steadying himself. "We use it, Navarro. We use this knowledge to save our people, to end this war once and for all." "But how?" Navarro asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. "This power, it's beyond anything we've ever known. How can we control it?" Cross didn't have an answer. The knowledge they had gained was vast and complex, full of ancient technologies and forgotten wisdom. But it was also dangerous. If wielded carelessly, it could lead to their destruction just as easily as it could bring salvation. "We'll have to be careful," Cross said, his voice firm. "But we don't have a choice. The Council won't stop until they've wiped out every last trace of humanity. If we don't use this power, there won't be anything left to save." Navarro nodded, though the fear in her eyes remained. "Then let's get back to the ship. The crew needs to know what we found." They made their way back to the Vengeance, the ancient structure seeming to pulse with a strange energy as they walked. It was as if the sanctum itself was alive, watching them, judging them. When they reached the ship, the crew was waiting anxiously in the hangar. As Cross and Navarro stepped inside, the tension in the air was palpable. "Captain," Wells said, stepping forward, "what happened? What did you find in there?" Cross looked at his crew, the people who had followed him through countless battles, who had trusted him with their lives. He knew that what he was about to say would change everything. "We found the sanctum," Cross began, his voice steady. "It's a repository of knowledge, a place that holds the secrets of the universe. And we gained access to that knowledge." The crew exchanged uneasy glances, their faces reflecting a mix of awe and fear. "What does that mean?" Navarro asked, looking at Cross. What kind of knowledge are we talking about? Cross hesitated, trying to find the right words. It's everything. Technology that can manipulate space and time, weapons that can destroy entire star systems, and the history of civilizations that existed long before ours. But it's more than that. It's a power that could change the course of history. There was a stunned silence as the crew absorbed what Cross had said. The implications were staggering. "So, what do we do with it?" Wells asked, her voice quiet. Cross looked at his crew, seeing the uncertainty in their eyes. He knew that this decision was not his alone to make. They were all in this together, and they would all have to face the consequences of whatever path they chose. "We use it to fight back," Cross said finally, his voice resolute. "We use it to destroy the Council and reclaim what was taken from us. But we do it carefully, and we do it with the understanding that this power is a double-edged sword. If we misuse it, it could destroy us." The crew nodded, their expressions a mix of determination and fear. They knew the risks, but they also knew that they had no other choice. This was their last chance to save humanity, and they would have to take it. "Set a course for the Council's stronghold," Cross ordered. "It's time to end this war." The final battle. The journey to the Council's stronghold was tense and filled with an uneasy silence. The crew of the Vengeance was on edge, knowing that they were about to face their greatest challenge yet. The knowledge they had gained from the Sanctum weighed heavily on their minds, a constant reminder of the power they now wielded, and the consequences of failure. As the ship approached the Council's stronghold, a massive space station that orbited a dying star, Cross could feel the tension in the air. The stronghold was heavily fortified, surrounded by a fleet of warships that dwarfed the Vengeance in size and firepower. "Captain, we're within range of the Council's defenses," Wells reported, her voice steady despite the fear that gripped the crew. "They're locking weapons on us." Cross took a deep breath, his mind racing. The knowledge from the Sanctum had given him insights into the Council's technology, but it was still a daunting task. They were outnumbered and outgunned, and one wrong move could spell their doom. "Activate the phase shift drive," Cross ordered. "Let's give them a taste of what we've learned." The Vengeance hummed with energy as the phase shift drive powered up, a technology that had been enhanced by the knowledge of the Sanctum. The ship shimmered, its form becoming translucent as it phased out of normal space and into a higher dimension. The Council's warships fired, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the Vengeance, unable to hit a target that no longer existed in their reality. "We're clear of their weapons," Wells reported, a hint of awe in her voice. "They can't touch us." "Good," Cross said, his voice calm. "Now let's show them what we can do." He activated the weapons systems, targeting the Council's warships. The Vengeance unleashed a barrage of energy beams, each one enhanced by the ancient technology of the Sanctum. The beams cut through the enemy ships like a hot knife through butter, destroying them in a matter of seconds. The crew watched in stunned silence as the Council's fleet was reduced to wreckage, the once mighty warships now floating lifelessly in the void. "We did it," Navarro whispered, her voice filled with disbelief. "We actually did it." But Cross knew that the battle was far from over. The stronghold still loomed ahead, its defenses still active. "Prepare to breach the stronghold," Cross ordered. "We're not done yet." The Vengeance surged forward, its shields deflecting the incoming fire from the stronghold's defenses. The ship's weapons tore through the station's outer defenses, carving a path through the metal and steel. "Sir, we've breached the outer hull," Wells reported. "We're in." "Take us to the core," Cross ordered. "We're going to end this once and for all." The ship maneuvered through the stronghold's interior, navigating the narrow corridors and avoiding the remaining defenses. As they neared the core, the heart of the station, Cross could feel the tension mounting. This was it, the final confrontation. The view screen flickered as they entered the core chamber, revealing a massive, pulsating sphere of energy that powered the entire station. Surrounding it were the Council's leaders, their forms twisted and distorted by the immense power they wielded. "Captain Cross," one of them hissed, their voice echoing through the chamber, "you cannot hope to defeat us. We are the masters of this universe, and you are nothing but a speck in the grand scheme of things." Cross felt a surge of anger, but he kept it in check. "You're wrong. You've brought nothing but death and destruction to the galaxy, and it ends here." The Council's leaders laughed, a chilling sound that reverberated through the chamber. "You think you can stop us? We are eternal, bound to the very fabric of the universe itself. Destroy us, and you will destroy everything." Cross hesitated, his resolve wavering. The knowledge from the sanctum flooded his mind, showing him the truth behind the Council's words. They were indeed bound to the universe, their existence tied to the cosmic balance. Destroying them could unravel reality itself. "Captain, what do we do?" Navarro asked, her voice filled with urgency. Cross closed his eyes, his mind racing. The power of the sanctum was immense, but it had to be used wisely. There had to be a way to defeat the Council without destroying everything. And then he saw it, a solution hidden deep within the knowledge they had gained. A way to sever the Council's connection to the universe without causing its destruction. "We're going to rewrite the rules," Cross said, his voice filled with determination. "Wells, prepare to interface with the core. We're going to use the sanctum's knowledge to reprogram the Council's connection to the universe." Wells nodded, her fingers flying over the controls. "I'm on it, Captain." The vengeance linked with the core, and Cross could feel the power of the sanctum flowing through him. He concentrated, focusing on the knowledge that had been imparted to him, and began the process of severing the Council's connection. The Council's leaders screamed in fury as they felt their power slipping away, their forms flickering as the cosmic bonds that held them together were unraveled. "You cannot do this," one of them roared, their voice filled with desperation. "You will doom us all." But Cross remained resolute. "No, we're saving the universe from you." With a final surge of energy, the process was complete. The Council's leaders disintegrated, their forms dissolving into nothingness as their connection to the universe was severed. The core pulsed with a blinding light, and then all was still. The vengeance floated in the silence of the core chamber, the only sound the steady hum of the ship's engines. "We did it," Navarro whispered, her voice filled with awe. "We actually did it." Cross let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "It's over. The Council is gone." The crew erupted into cheers, their voices echoing through the ship. The war was over, and humanity had won. But as Cross looked out at the wreckage of the Council's stronghold, he knew that the true battle was only just beginning. The universe was vast and filled with countless dangers, and the knowledge they had gained from the sanctum was both a blessing and a curse. "We've won the war," Cross said, his voice quiet. "But now we have to rebuild. We have to make sure that this knowledge is used for good, and not for destruction." Navarro nodded, her expression serious. "We'll make sure of it, Captain." Together. Cross smiled, feeling a sense of hope for the first time in what felt like years. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, it was a future worth fighting for. And with that, the vengeance turned and set a course for home, leaving the ruins of the Council's stronghold behind. Epilogue. A new dawn. The vengeance returned to Earth to a hero's welcome. The news of their victory spread like wildfire, and the surviving remnants of humanity celebrated their salvation. The Council was gone, and with them, the threat that had loomed over the galaxy for so long. But the knowledge of the sanctum weighed heavily on Cross and his crew. They knew that they had been entrusted with something far greater than themselves, something that could either save or destroy the universe. In the months that followed, Cross and his crew worked tirelessly to ensure that the knowledge they had gained was used responsibly. They shared their discoveries with the remnants of humanity, helping to rebuild civilization and forge a new era of peace and prosperity. But they also remained vigilant, knowing that the power they wielded could attract those who would seek to use it for their own gain. The Sanctum's knowledge was both a gift and a curse, and it was up to them to ensure that it was used wisely. As the years passed, the Vengeance became a symbol of hope and resilience, a reminder of the sacrifices that had been made to secure humanity's future. And as they looked out at the stars, Cross and his crew knew that their journey was far from over. For as long as there were dangers in the universe, they would be there to face them. And as long as there was hope, they would be there to protect it. Because they were more than just a crew. They were the guardians of the future, and they would fight to ensure that the light of humanity would never be extinguished. And so, the Vengeance sailed on, a beacon of hope in a universe filled with darkness, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The end.